Bienvenidos, soy Daniela Garza y el día de hoy tenemos como invitado especial a Kambiz Hemati en nuestra nueva serie de eventos virtuales de NUS. En esta primera serie de NUS queremos presentar a diferentes invitados que nos van a platicar un poco de la transformación que se está viviendo en las diferentes industrias y en los diferentes sectores económicos, dentro de nuestro país y fuera de nuestro país, y viendo un poco hacia dónde nos movemos. Kambiz es actualmente Head of Customer Experience de American Eagle y Aerie. Fue VP de Global Retail Design en Foot Locker y ha sido un pionero en el mundo del diseño de tiendas, centrado en la experiencia del consumidor. Previo a esto, ha liderado equipos creativos para crear y transformar nuevos conceptos en tiendas, pop-ups, espacios para marcas como Verizon, Nike, Starbucks, BCBG, Hervé Leger, Azria, Fila Sport, Mizrahi, Xcel Brands y una serie de marcas más. También ha sido consultor para marcas como Old Navy, Utopia Development, así como director creativo para marketing experiencial para marcas como Google, Sunrun y Sleppy Giant. Participó con nosotros el año pasado aquí en Monterrey, en mayo del 2019, y he tenido la oportunidad de platicar con Kambiz en estas últimas semanas cómo ha estado viviendo en Nueva York, un poco caótico, pero también con muchísimo trabajo, ya que ha estado muy activo en la reapertura de las tiendas de American Eagle, lo cual ahorita nos va a platicar más a profundidad con quien será nuestro host el día de hoy y podrá profundizar un poquito más con Kambiz acerca de diferentes temas. Welcome, Kambiz. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you for having me.
Adelante, con.
Thanks so much, Daniela, for that great introduction. Kambiz and Daniela, we're super excited about this topic right now because it's on everyone's mind. Literally, there's not a conversation that goes by. Oh, by the way, my name is Kambiz Hemati with Daniela and Eugenio and partners for the news conference, and thank you all for attending. But when we think about what's on our mind all the time right now, we've called this the Great Pause, and we tend to say a lot about what's going on and how things have changed. But I wanted to take a minute before we get into that topic to talk about the kind of the before stage of that. And you've just started a new job this year. We've known each other for a while now, and this was an exciting new adventure for you. And I know it's been something that you've been thinking about for a while. So can you talk about how you managed to go to get to American Eagle and what that looks like and what your role is?
Yes, so yeah, and as Khan mentioned, my background is really architecture and graphic design and film, and I've worked all my career in design and creating branded environments and concepts for larger and smaller companies. A lot of that always had to do with how the customer experiences a space. How do you walk in? What do you see? How do you shop? How do you behave? So a lot of it is psychology. A lot of it is it's kind of like a intersection between art and business, because it's not just the art of the design, but it's also the business of shopping and the business of how people react when they see something, and how do you enter a sort of a house of a brand, so to speak. So I've done a lot of work in that time and during my professional life. But the shift that happened just at the beginning of this year was that I was offered this position with American Eagle, which is not just the design and the construction and the environment and the physical, but it's also the experience and the customer, really specifically customer experience. And the customer experience, because retail these days is not just about stores, but it's also about the website. It's about the app that you use when you are, interacting with the company. So when we started to look at this, my position this time was about design, was about concept, was about graphic and communication and all these things, but it's also specifically about customer experience and how you connect the web to the app, to the store, and really all the channels of shopping.
It's interesting that shopping's been changing dramatically over the last several years. None more so than in the past probably 2 months though. so, you've taken this new job, you've got a remit to rethink the customer experience from end to end. And you go in on your first day, which was what?
It was actually the first week of February. And I started on the second day, we were on a business trip in Miami. And so we were doing all these things. And then we came back and, this virus started really.
What was the process? You guys have 2,000 plus stores around the world. What was the process like in terms of finding out that things were shutting down for you? Because it was kind of a rolling process nationwide. But how did you decide, and your company decide, to start closing stores and to pull staff out?
I think there was a moment, yes, I think it started early in March, and there was people were starting to talk about it, and there was a conversation about it, and people were starting to worry about it. And then we reached a point, and also because most of our leadership is in New York. So I think being in New York, which sadly became the epicenter of all of this in the US, I think there was a moment mid-March where it really felt that things were becoming very unsafe. Unsafe not only for our customers, but also for our associates. And then that was the moment where the company decided to shut down all the stores, because it felt that we were putting our people at risk. And then following also the guidelines that were set, there was a decision made at that point. And so we closed all the stores around, I want to say around mid-March. I don't remember exactly, but that was the time period.
And that's a lot of stores. How many people are we talking about?
We're talking about a lot of people. I mean, American Eagle has about, on the payroll, I think it's about 35,000 people. So yeah, and all of these people were told to basically go home, but the company was still paying them for a while, which, obviously it's a big expense when you don't have any store that are open.
And now you're looking at, I think you said earlier that you had reopened 200 stores, and you're opening some more. Before we get into those numbers though, I'd just talk about, here you are, you've got the web channel, which people can still shop on the web, right? But you've got American Eagle is a staple for our audience. American Eagle is a staple in most malls in the US. I can't be, I'm not sure what the footprint is in Monterey exactly, but I have to imagine you guys have some level of presence there.
No, actually, we have it's interesting actually for our Mexican friends here online. Mexico is actually a very big market for American Eagle and Aerie. It's really growing pretty fast. So I think it's one of the top international markets for the company.
Oh, wow. Yes, there are some stores here.
Yeah.
I think.
So are those open or are those closed right now?
No, I think, they're closed too. Like most of the stores are closed. Yeah.
Well, so when you start looking at reopening, how do you even think about it? How do you wrap your head around what is it going to be like to open a store? Were you able to, physically go into spaces and think about that, or what was the process?
Yeah, so we, again, I started as we said in February, and I had this very big plans to set up a digital lab and set up, all kinds of innovation programs for the company, and really think of the future of the store and the future of retail. And then suddenly this happened. And when we closed all the stores, we realized that there was a moment, the first week, we just didn't even know what to do. I mean, we just closed all the stores and what's going to happen. But then we quickly realized that maybe this is an opportunity actually to be proactive and start to prepare. We wanted to start preparing even though we didn't really know when we can reopen. And that really became my project. To really think of, what happens when we reopen? What happens when you open the doors? What do you need to do to prepare? How can you be the safest and, best place to shop after the virus and when we can reopen? We wanted to to do that. And we started to do that at the beginning of April. So that's when we started. And we started just 3-4 people. And I was thinking that really the only way to do that is we can't really do it from our homes or from, because we were all also working from home. So we decided the best way to do it is to actually go in a store, a physical store, and actually start to see what the problems are, because this is something completely new. What are the touch points and what are the problematic places that we have to address? So we actually found two stores at one Aerie and one American Eagle that were about an hour drive from New York. And we just started to drive to a very, a mall that was completely closed. And we went there and we started to actually, take fixtures out, clean up, reorganize. And we just sat in the store for a few hours to try to think what would happen when the customer is ready to come back, and what do we need to do to be there and to be ready.
What were some of the big things that you had to do?
Well, we started to think about, first of all, we started to work with our associates. For me, the challenge when you reopen the store, of course you have to think of the customer. But I think the most important thing actually is to think about the sales associates, because those are the people that are on the front line. Those are the people that have to face the first customers. Those are the people that open the store. Those are the first people that your customers will see when they come to the store. And the challenge is that if they don't feel comfortable, if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel that there is a master plan, then they won't be comfortable to work. And if they're not comfortable to work, you're not really going to get a good service. Also, our customer base is about roughly 15 to 25-ish. And the people who work in our store are kind of our customers too. So what we did is I had a whole bunch of our operation and store people come to the store, and we started to talk to them and say, well, what are the pain points? What do you need? What do you need to feel safe? How can we make your work better? How can we help you? And we started to make a list. And broadly speaking, the idea is that we wanted the stores to be more open because you need more space, right? To be safe and be at the 6-foot distance. So we took a lot of fixtures out. We completely redid the visual merchandising to make the product much more easy to see. So instead of imagine putting your hand inside, digging through the things you don't want to touch because as a customer. So instead of that, we cleaned up the stores and really made the product so you could see the product from a distance without necessarily having to touch it. So that was one thing. We set up stations in the store where we explained what we are doing for the customers and what the customers should do for themselves to keep safe. So there was a lot of conversation around messaging. I worked also with a doctor. We have actually a consulting doctor, and we also have a psychologist, and so the operation people. So, we started to put a good team together to come up with these ideas. The second pain point was the dressing room area. The dressing room area is a very intimate place, as you can imagine. And there's two problems. First of all, is the dressing room clean? Secondly, the clothes that I'm about to wear, are they clean? Is somebody did somebody with a virus come and try this jacket right before me? How do you, make people feel safe? So that's where we also came up with ways to, if somebody tries something, we put it back and we don't use it for 24 hours, then we clean it before we bring it back on the floor. So everything that you try is clean. And also the dressing rooms are cleaned regularly. We clean it before somebody comes in the dressing room and after somebody comes. And then finally, the last point is the cash wrap. The cash wrap where you pay. Before there was a lot of places where you had to put your credit card, put a code, put a sign. We got rid of all of that so that there's less touching. And so those are some of the things. There's a lot of little details, but those are mainly the elements that we set up.
It's interesting because every single one of those that you described, I would argue might have been on your roadmap before COVID anyway, right? You're making everything easier and more pleasant of a shopping experience. So has this actually accelerated some of the plans you had before?
Absolutely. I think really, for me, every company, every retailer, especially, everybody really, this is a great opportunity to bring back all the plans that you thought you wanted to do in 5 years, in 10 years, and whatever years. Everything has to be done now. This is the right time. And it's the right, I think we have the right license right now to do all of that. So yeah, and certainly from my perspective, I'm taking this opportunity to push every idea that we ever thought about, because everybody's ready for it. Because really, right now, if you're a retailer, it's a matter of survival. It doesn't matter if you're small or big. I mean, we have a very healthy company. We sell, we're number 2 in denim in the world. We sell about over 1 million pairs of jeans every week. So it's a pretty big operation. We're number 1 for women denim in the US. We're number 2 overall after Levi's. So, we have a good company and we have a great brand. But we can't just be complacent and feel comfortable. We feel that we have to really move quickly and implement a lot of new ideas. And really, at the end of the day, the challenge, I think, is that what I try to tell everybody and all the teams is that the truth is that nobody knows what's going to happen in 3 months, in 6 months, next year. Nobody knows. So we need to try things, and we need to quickly get feedback, test, learn, adjust, move quickly. And so, for example, you said, Con, we've opened about 200 stores. We're opening another 100 this weekend. But what we do is that every night we get direct feedback from every store. What is the customer saying? What is the sales associate? How do they feel? How do they work? Is there anything we can do? What works? What doesn't work? So we can quickly make adjustments because we still have hundreds and hundreds of other stores to open.
Sure. But it's interesting you talk about the brand, because you actually, your brand growth and your audience for that brand growth, it's on the edge of innovation. Kids don't want to shop the way their parents shop necessarily, right? So you actually have a nice moment of intersection on both of those fronts.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I mean, it's,
Sure.
yeah, sorry. I think that if you're a retailer, and I think if you really any business, but specifically business that caters to younger people, I think the difference now and maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago was that in the past, people would compare you to other other companies within your industry. So maybe they said, oh, Levi's is doing it like this, you're doing it like that, Nike is doing it like this. But right now, these days, the younger generation, they compare you to everybody. So they say, hey, how come you're not like Uber? How come you're not like, Equinox? How come you're not like Amazon? How come you're not Apple? So it's the competition to get the attention of people and to be there for people is really every company. So you're competing with all the tech companies, all the big companies, small companies, local companies, you're competing with everybody in the mind of the younger generation.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Daniela, you had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering if you have special restrictions from government, like the restaurants, that it's just 25% the capacity.
Oh, yeah.
There's some regulations, guidelines. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, some in the US, it's state by state varies.
Okay.
A lot of the stores that we've opened in the states that are allowing us to open. So, for example, we haven't opened any stores in New York or Los Angeles or California or those places because we can't. But we have certain other states where we can open, and the guideline is different everywhere. So what we did is we came up with our own guidelines, you know, what we feel is safe for us. Of course, it also is, you know, working with the guidelines of the states and the government. But I think we wanted to go beyond that. So some states, for example, they don't have really a guideline for example, for distancing. Some places, they just open the doors and that's it. But what we said is that we want one person per 200 square feet of space. So every store that has a certain area, we divide that per 200 square feet, which is about, you know, I don't remember in meter, what is it? But what it does is that it limits the number of people that come to the store, because we don't want too many people in the store, for example. So we look at the government, we look at the CDC, which is the, you know, the American Health Organization. We also have our own doctor. So we look at all the information. We looked at what they're doing, for example, in Europe, in Germany, in Austria, you know, places like that. And we've created our own guidelines.
Okay. That goes back to your idea of making sure your associates are comfortable, and that their behavior will model how other people in the store actually behave too, right?
Yeah.
200 square feet is 18.5 square meters.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
I grew up with meters, but I can't remember it anymore. But anyway.
The translation's always a little difficult. So, you know, you mentioned a lot about the stores reopening. We've got a question from Bernardo that I'm going to paraphrase here, who asks, basically, you know, we've seen this online and in-store and on-premise shopping as this ever-evolving kind of pattern of shopping behavior. Clearly now more people are shopping online than they ever have been, right? How do you build your brand online? So you're talking about changing the retail experience in store, which you've done forever, but now you've got to change the customer experience online, not just because of COVID, but the evolution that's going to continue to happen. And in particular there, you get comparisons to functionality like Snapchat and Facebook and TikTok and everything else. Where are you looking at innovation on that side?
Yeah, I think that yes, we're lucky. For example, our company, we have a very strong online business, and that online business has been actually really good. You know, much more than we believed in the last few months. And a lot of things that the online world hasn't changed obviously as much as the physical world is changing. But what we want to do, which is again something that I wanted to do for a long time, is we want to connect the online experience more to the physical experience, and the physical more to online. So there are a lot of examples of things that we want to do, but a lot of them are sort of high tech and more difficult, and some of them are very low tech. You know, we were thinking, for example, we could, how do we connect the physical store to the actual online store? Could you, when you're on your website, can you just look and, for example, click on your local store and actually talk on video with somebody in that store and say, hey, I'm thinking of buying, I don't know, this dress, but I don't know how, can you tell me, can you show me the back of it? Can you say how it looks? What is there any other dress like that? And talk to an actual person in a store. So I think for us, it's finding ways to make the store more useful to the online shopping. So enhance the online shopping, but at the same time, make the store more relevant, not just a place, just an old store, just you go there and make a transaction, but it's a place also that serves a purpose for the, so it's kind of like, it's really connecting the two. I really think that online and offline and all these things, it's just all going to be the same moving forward. It's just a different part of the shopping experience.
That's an interesting, I think that's exactly right. What about even beyond that? Are there new experiences that are going to develop? Like, is there some sort of different type of thing beyond store or online? you know, even that bleed? Are there new pop-up experiences or something like that that might occur?
Yes, I think so. And, you know, and I think that these are all projects that I'm going to be working on. But if we want to broadly speak about it, I think the way to look at it again, I feel for every business is that it used to be like when I was a kid, that shopping was only in the store. And let's say your parents would take you to the store, and that was your first experience of shopping. You go in a physical space and you look at everything, you know. But if you really think about it right now, shopping, the first experience of a child is not really at the store. It could be on an iPad. You know, the kids these days, they buy games online, they buy music online, they buy all kinds of apps online. You know, so the first experience of retail for kids is not the store anymore. And also the other thing is that shopping happens all the time. It used to be that shopping happened only from like, you know, I don't know, 10 to 7 or whatever the hours are of the shopping place, right? But you know, you, me, we all shop at all times. You can wake up in the middle of the night and shop, right? So I think the way we move forward is that the brands that are successful find a way to be in every place that the person and at every time that the person wants to shop. So a lot of times, you know, I do shopping, and sometimes, you know, when I was taking the subway, I would do shopping in the subway. I was just like, you know, I needed certain things from Amazon, and you just buy them. So shopping happens all the time. So there is really no time, and really there is no specific place. I mean, think about all the shopping at the airport. Think about all the shopping like in certain transit stations. Think about, you know, shopping pop-ups, like you were saying. There are pop-ups that are popping up everywhere. So there is really no fixed location. You just have to think, where is your customer, and try to be there and be present and be relevant to your customer.
That's great. I actually just bought a pair of jeans from you guys while we were talking. All kidding. Go ahead, Daniela.
Just, I mean, I was wondering, what about, I think that you mentioned me about the experience of trying your, maybe, you know, just a dress or some jeans. If you can just online give your measures, and there's a way that you could try and fit and see what, I mean, how should it look on you? I don't know if there's a way we can see that. I mean, there's going to be developing some kind of software or something where we can try that.
Yeah, there are some companies that do that, you know, it's not perfect yet. There is augmented reality, there is virtual reality, there is ways to, I think Nike has one where when you look, you can look down on your feet, and then you can see the shoe on your feet, like, you know, with the new iPhones, you know. So there are ways to do it. I don't think we're there yet, but yes, you're right. I mean, the biggest problem is that the biggest problem of shopping online is the fit, because we don't know, and especially for jeans. You know, jeans are very difficult. We all have our favorite jeans. And then when we find our favorite jean, we always stay with the favorite jean, because that's the jean that makes us feel good, that makes us look good. So denim is complicated because you really need to try it. So, you know, I think that most of the online shopping right now, it's either done with people that they know already their size and they know what, you know, type of jean they like, or it's people that basically are taking their chances, ordering it, and if it doesn't work, they return it. But yes, that part of the online experience is still a problem and still hasn't been fixed.
There's a great opportunity, definitely.
Yeah, jeans are always going to be a challenge. Those are such a personal fit that are hard to repeat, even from the same style from pair to pair.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So we're at time actually, Kambiz, but we do have a few questions from the the group that I'd love to try to pull a couple more in if you can hold with us for a few minutes.
Sure.
So Bernardo's back, and he actually, this is a good question. So if you're limiting amount of people coming in the store, clearly that's going to affect on-premise sales. Are you guys adjusting kind of expectations and priorities in terms of omnichannel reach? So if sales per store go down, you're adjusting your evaluation metrics from a year-over-year perspective, and maybe you're looking at increased sales online to kind of offset that. Can you explain a little bit of how you're thinking about the multi-channel strategy?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the notion that we really don't know what's going to happen when we open the stores. So, you know, there are two things. One is that when we open the stores, and again, this is work in progress, right? So imagine if you have a store that is closed, and then somebody says, okay, now you can open. Let's say, for example, in New York. If we open the store, the first problem is that what do you need to do to open the store? How do you need to change the store? How do you need to adapt? What are the changes? Because if you're a customer and you go from one place to another and you have to open 3 doors, it's a problem because you don't want to touch the doors, right? So there's like a lot of things to think about. But here's the thing. When you reopen, you're not going to have millions of people come anyway.
Yeah.
So the number of people that come at the beginning is much less than before. So you really don't have that problem of like, you know, even you're reducing, it's not as bad because there's not that many people. And then the second thing that is interesting is that before the virus, people will come in the shop and just look. Oh, you know, it's kind of fun, and then they go home or whatever. Some people shop, some people look, some people browse, right? But now, the people that come to the store, they really want to shop because otherwise they wouldn't come to the store. So what we have seen is that, yes, there are less people coming, you know, to our stores. And again, it's going to vary from location to location, right? And also age group. But we see that in the first few days, we see less people, but those people that come shop a lot because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're here to shop. Otherwise, they wouldn't just come to the store just to hang out with the mask and everything. So there's the conversion is much higher. And I think that as we move forward, let's say, for example, if you start with 200 square feet, maybe 200 square feet is for, I don't know, 2 weeks. Maybe the third week you go to 150 square feet. That depends on the location and it depends on the comfort level of the people and you see how your operation works. We knew that 200 is just the first step. We can always go down if we want to.
You mentioned that we have another question which actually builds on something you just mentioned. This one's from Eugenio, and you know, it actually looks at you're a store within another space, you're a shopping mall often, right? And you think about the different doors you have to get through. You know, how are you working through that model, or you know, in conjunction with the shopping center, who may have different guidelines than your guidelines? And you know, where does that start to go? Is there going to be a change to how retail opens up? Do you have doors on all your stores, just as on most of your stores, or are they kind of open concepts where you can just walk in and out?
Lots of them have doors, but there is also some that are open. Yeah, they're open wide. Yeah, you know, and again, every mall is different. Every shopping center is different, have different rules. We all know that shopping centers had a lot of problems before this virus. And really now they have really big problems. And we did a part of my research when I was, you know, in April, when I was thinking about all of these things, we also did we did a survey with our customers. So we took a survey of, I think, 1,300 of our shoppers and asked them, you know, hey, how do you feel about a mall? How do you feel about the store? How do you feel about, you know, and there is also other surveys that have been done in the US. And actually, the mall is one of the scariest places for people. And one of the reasons is that they mentioned, which is a little strange, but hey, it's the air. People are worried about the air inside the enclosed mall. So I think that's a big challenge for malls, and that's going to make a big difference between open malls and closed malls, right?
Yeah. So we're way past time now. Just one last question. In general, would you say you're feeling optimistic about where we're going and the ability to tackle the challenges in front of us?
I think I'm optimistic. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I think it's going to depend on how, if the virus keeps coming back, or, if it doesn't, and how, well that is handled. Ultimately, I don't think people are going to be 100% comfortable until there is a vaccine, which that's going to, take some time. But, I think there's a lot of negative, and there's a lot of, obviously, tragedy around this virus. But if there's anything positive, I think it's really for all the decision makers and the leaders out there, is that this is the moment to make a change. And it's really the moment to I have seen some stores where people didn't do anything, and they just, it's open, okay, they open the door, and they put the Purell on the table, and that's it. I don't think that is going to work anymore. I think you need to be very on message, proactive. You need to show that you care. You need to show that you care for people, So I'm optimistic in a way, because I'm optimistic that this, from tragedy, there will be a shift in shopping and the malls and the stores. But the reality is that lots of stores are going to go out of business, and lots of companies are going to go out of business, I think.
Yeah, I think we're at the very beginning of understanding the real impact of what's happening right now.
Yeah, we don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. And
Kambiz, I've been hearing a lot. Sorry, just one last thing. I've been hearing lately about conscious shopping. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think, and I think that's an interesting thing. I don't know what's going to happen, but part of me hopes that, we are in this phase right now where the most important thing is survival, right? Because we have to stay safe, not get the virus, all of that thing. So we concentrate all as a society on saving our life. So it's a survival moment. But I hope that after this phase, we get to a point where people start to think, why did this happen? What are we doing that is not right? How are we treating the planet? How are we treating the earth? How do we treat animals? What are we eating? Because remember, this thing started with those little animals in that market. People put those wild animals in cages, and this is created by all of that thing in Wuhan and China and all that stuff. So if you really think about it, the way we treat our planet, the way we treat the nature, the way we treat animals, the way we have industrial farming, all of those things are creating a lot of problems for us. And I hope that after this, there will be a moment where people think about those things and think about how we need to change. Because if we don't change, there will be another virus, there will be another issue, there will be another problem. We can't just go on and on and on the way we have been going on. That's my hope. But you know what? I don't know. We'll see.
Well said.
It will change.
Well, again, thank you very much for this evening. It's really great to hear from you and to see you again. You look well, and I'm glad you and your family are safe and healthy. On behalf of me and Daniela and Eugenio and everyone on the stream tonight, thanks again for joining us, Kambiz, and we'll see you soon.
No, thank you for having me, and it's always fun to speak with everybody. We were in Monterey last year, so yeah.
Like 1 year ago right now, we were in Monterey, which was a great time.
I know, we had such a good time.
I think that you'll have to come back to reopen now in Mexico. Maybe.
Yes, would love to. We had such a good time last year, so yes, anytime. We're ready to come back.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye.